Imagine walking into a high-stakes negotiation. Your palms are sweaty, your heart is racing, but there's a glimmer in your eye. Why? Because you know something your opponent doesn't. You possess a set of powerful tools that can tip the scales in your favor, allowing you to walk away with exactly what you want, or even more. Today, we're going to unlock those tools and give you the keys to mastering the art of negotiation. Welcome to CEO's Library, the 1% bookshelf, where we distill game-changing insights from the most impactful business books, the ones that are shaping industries and driving innovation. I'm your host, and in the next 20 minutes, we're going to dive deep into Secrets of Power Negotiating by Roger Dawson. Whether you're a seasoned executive or an aspiring entrepreneur, by the end of this episode, you'll have a toolbox full of negotiation tactics that can transform every interaction, from million-dollar deals to everyday conversations. So buckle up, because your journey to becoming a master negotiator starts now. Welcome back, listeners. Before we dive into the meat of today's episode, let me ask you a question. When was the last time you negotiated something? Maybe it was a big business deal, or perhaps it was convincing your kids to eat their vegetables. Whatever it was, I bet it didn't go exactly as you planned. That's because negotiation is an art form, one that most of us haven't been formally trained in. Yet it's a skill that can make or break our success in business and in life. Think about it. Everything we want or need is currently owned or controlled by someone else. Our ability to negotiate effectively determines our ability to get those things. That's where Roger Dawson's Secrets of Power Negotiating comes in. This book is a treasure trove of negotiation strategies that have been tried and tested in the real world. Dawson isn't just a theorist, he's a practitioner who has used these techniques to build a successful career and has taught them to executives at some of the world's largest companies. Today we're going to focus on 4 key principles from Dawson's book. These aren't just abstract concepts, they're practical tools you can start using immediately. And the best part, they work in any negotiation scenario, whether you're in a boardroom or a living room. Let's start with the first principle. Ask for more than you expect to get. Now, I know what you're thinking. Isn't that just being greedy? Not at all. In fact, it's a strategic move that sets the stage for the entire negotiation. Dawson calls this bracketing, and it's a game changer. Here's how it works. Let's say you're selling your car. You've done your research, and you know it's worth about $10,000. Most people would start by asking for $10,000 or maybe $11,000 if they're feeling bold. But a power negotiator, they might start at $15,000. Why? Because by starting high, you're setting the parameters of the negotiation. You're creating a range within which the final price will fall. If you start at $15,000 and the buyer starts at $8,000, you've created a bracket. And guess what? The final price is likely to end up somewhere in the middle. But it's not just about the numbers. Starting high also has a psychological impact. It plants a seed in the other person's mind about the value of what you're offering. Even if they think your initial ask is too high, it becomes an anchor point that influences their perception of a fair price. Let me give you a real-world example. A client of mine was negotiating the sale of his software company. Initial market estimates valued the company at around $50 million. Instead of using this as his asking price, he boldly stated that he wouldn't consider any offers under $75 million. Was this realistic? Probably not, but it set the tone for the entire negotiation. Potential buyers who might have started with lowball offers of $40 million now felt compelled to come in at $60 million or higher just to be taken seriously. In the end, the company sold for $68 million, far more than the initial $50 million estimate. The lesson here is clear. Don't be afraid to aim high. You're not being greedy, you're being strategic. Remember, you can always come down in a negotiation, but it's nearly impossible to go up. Now that we've set our high anchor, let's move on to our second principle: never say yes to the first offer. This might seem counterintuitive, especially if the first offer is better than you expected. But trust me, saying yes too quickly can be a huge mistake. Here's why. When you immediately accept an offer, it triggers two thoughts in the other person's mind. First, I could have done better. And second, something must be wrong. Neither of these thoughts is good for you. Let me illustrate this with a story. A friend of mine, let's call him Tom, was selling his house. He had it listed for $400,000, which he thought was a fair price. On the first day, a buyer came in with a full price offer. Tom was ecstatic and ready to accept on the spot. Luckily, his real estate agent stopped him. Instead of accepting, the agent told the buyer they'd consider the offer and get back to them. Over the next 2 days, 3 more offers came in. The house ended up selling for $425,000, $25,000 more than Tom would have gotten if he'd said yes to the first offer. But it's not just about potentially getting a better deal. Even if you end up accepting the first offer, taking time to consider it changes the dynamic of the negotiation. It makes the other party feel like they've won, like they've gotten a good deal. And that feeling is crucial for building long-term relationships. So what should you do instead of saying yes? Dawson suggests a few strategies. 1. Express mild disappointment even if you're thrilled with the offer. 2. Tell them you'll have to think it over. 3. Say you'll have to check with someone else before deciding. The key is to never appear too eager. Even if the offer is exactly what you wanted, take a beat. Sleep on it. You might be surprised by how often the other party comes back with an even better offer when you don't jump at the first one. All right, we've set a high anchor and we've resisted the urge to say yes right away. Now it's time for our third principle: flinch at proposals. The flinch is a powerful non-verbal tool in your negotiation arsenal. It's a visible reaction of shock or surprise when the other party makes a proposal. And it's incredibly effective. Why? Because people believe what they see more than what they hear. You can tell someone their price is too high, but showing them through your body language can be far more impactful. Here's how to do it. When the other party makes an offer, react as if you've just been shocked. Gasp, step back, or let your jaw drop. The key is to make it look natural and involuntary. I once saw this in action during a salary negotiation. An employee asked for a 20% raise, and the manager visibly flinched. He didn't say a word, but his reaction spoke volumes. The employee immediately started backtracking, saying he'd be happy with 15% or even 10%, all because of a simple flinch. But the flinch isn't just for receiving offers. You can use it when making offers too. If you're a salesperson and a customer asks about your price, flinch before you tell them. It sends a signal that your price is so low you're almost embarrassed to say it. Now, I know what you're thinking. Isn't this manipulative? Not at all. Remember, negotiation is a dance. Both parties are using various techniques to reach an agreement. The flinch is simply a way of communicating, of signaling that an offer is outside of what you expected. The beauty of the flinch is that it works in any culture and any language. It's a universal signal that something is amiss. So whether you're negotiating with a vendor in Beijing or a client in New York, the flinch is a tool you can always rely on. Now let's move on to our fourth and final principle for today: the good guy, bad guy technique. You've probably seen this in every police movie ever made. One detective is tough and aggressive, while the other is friendly and understanding. It's a classic technique, and it's classic for a reason. It works. But how can we apply this in business negotiations? Well, it's all about creating contrast and giving the other party a way to say yes. Here's how it might work in practice. Let's say you're trying to get a better price from a supplier. You might start by being firm and unyielding. These prices are way too high. We need a 20% discount or we'll have to look elsewhere. This is you playing the bad guy. Here's how it might work in practice. Let's say you're trying to get a better price from a supplier. You might start by being firm and unyielding. These prices are way too high. We need a 20% discount or we'll have to look elsewhere. This is you playing the bad guy. Then you might say something like, look, I need to check with my team. I'll be back in a few minutes. When you return, you play the good guy. I've managed to convince my team to accept a 15% discount. Can you work with that? What's happening here? You're creating a scenario where the other party feels like they're getting a win. They're not dealing with the tough negotiator anymore. They're dealing with the reasonable one who's gone to bat for them. This technique is particularly effective when you're negotiating as part of a team. One team member can take a hard line while another can be more conciliatory. It gives the other party a face-saving way to make concessions. I once saw this used brilliantly in a corporate merger. The acquiring company's CEO was known for being a tough negotiator. He started with a lowball offer and was very aggressive in the initial meetings. Then he brought in his COO, who was much more personable. The COO was able to smooth things over and get the deal done at a price that was still very favorable to the acquiring company. The key to making this work is subtlety. If it's too obvious, it can backfire. The goal is to create a dynamic where the other party feels like they're getting a win by dealing with the good guy, even if the end result is exactly what you wanted all along. Now that we've covered these 4 powerful principles, let's talk about how you can start applying them in your life. The beauty of these techniques is that they work in any negotiation scenario, but like any skill, they take practice to master. Start by using them in low-stakes situations. Maybe you're buying a used item online or you're discussing project deadlines with a colleague. These are perfect opportunities to practice without the pressure of a high-stakes negotiation. As you're practicing, you'll likely face some challenges. You might feel uncomfortable asking for more than you expect to get. You might be tempted to say yes to the first offer that seems reasonable. That's okay. Remember, negotiation is a skill, and skills take time to develop. Let me share a personal anecdote. When I first started using these techniques, I felt like I was acting. It didn't feel natural to flinch at offers or to play the bad guy role, but the more I practiced, the more natural it became. And the results spoke for themselves. I remember one particular negotiation for a consulting contract. I started by asking for 30% more than I actually expected to get. When the client made their first offer, I made sure to flinch, even though it was actually higher than I had hoped for. Then I used the good guy, bad guy technique, saying I needed to consult with my team. In the end, I walked away with a contract that was 20% higher than my initial target. But here's the best part. The client felt like they had gotten a great deal too. They had negotiated me down from my initial ask, and they felt like they were getting premium service at a discount. That's the power of these techniques. When used correctly, they create win-win situations. You get what you want, and the other party feels good about the outcome too. As we wrap up today's episode, let's recap the key takeaways from Secrets of Power Negotiating. 1. Always ask for more than you expect to get. This sets a high anchor and gives you room to negotiate. 2. Never say yes to the first offer. Take time to consider, even if you're happy with the proposal. 3. Use the flinch. Your non-verbal reactions can be just as powerful as your words. 4. Employ the good guy, bad guy technique. Create contrast to give the other party a way to say yes. Remember, these are just a few of the many powerful strategies that Roger Dawson shares in his book. Secrets of Power Negotiating is packed with more techniques, real-world examples, and in-depth explanations that can take your negotiation skills to the next level. Negotiation isn't just a skill for the boardroom, it's a fundamental part of human interaction. By mastering these techniques, you're not just improving your business acumen, you're enhancing your ability to navigate all aspects of life. So, I encourage you to start practicing these principles today. The next time you're in a negotiation, big or small, try using one of these techniques. You might be surprised at the results. And remember, like any skill, negotiation improves with practice. Don't be discouraged if you don't see immediate results. Keep at it. And over time, you'll find yourself becoming a more confident and effective negotiator. Before we go, I want to remind you that you can find a link to purchase Secrets of Power Negotiating by Roger Dawson in the episode description. If you've found value in what we've discussed today, I highly recommend picking up a copy. It's a resource you'll find yourself returning to again and again as you continue to hone your negotiation skills. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of CEO's Library, the 1% Bookshelf. I hope you found these insights as valuable as I have. Until next time, keep reading, keep learning, and keep negotiating.